Hi guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles, the channel where Becca talks about all the airing winter anime that she's watching. I tell you guys roughly my thoughts, anything interesting I break down, any key points that come across as fascinating or very cleverly put in. A lot of stuff on this channel is analytical, so I'll delve into colour, delve into how composition affects everything. I have a deeper series called What's in a Design, where I talk about characters on a whole, how a character's design will influence how they act or even sometimes foreshadow the things that may happen to them. I do have some more lighter videos coming your way, more fun videos going your way, the first of which went up on Valentine's Day. Give that a check if you're interested. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because there's quite a bit going on quite soon. Soon I will be giving you my top 3 anime of winter 2021 and also telling you what's coming next season. Next season looks like it's going to be a busy one, and we've got a return of an old favourite for quite a few of you guys, so I can't wait to get back onto that. There is a Discord channel for you guys to also go ahead, lurk. You will get a notification whenever a video goes up. I also can give you guys updates whenever there's a delay. I do plan to expand on that base once the channel starts to get a little bit bigger. Hello and welcome back to episode 6 of The Promised Neverland season 2. Didn't see you guys last week because we had the catch up or the review video. Don't really do reviews. There was nothing new in that video, so we're back now with a new episode, which feels like a very big info dump, and I'm not gonna lie, I did want to hit the brakes a few times during this episode because it's fast. And obviously we are now following a original timeline. We've skipped arcs. I have done a little bit of research just to see roughly how much was skipped. And there's a fair bit, so there's a lot of characters not in this. We have no idea where we're going. We've jumped back in apparently a few arcs down, so whether this is now following the story from there and it's now not going to change, or whether it's going to be completely changed, it's going to be interesting to see. Let's just discuss what we've got in front of us because that's all we can do, and I am indeed an anime only, so I know no different. Last episode, we saw that Norman indeed was alive, where we get 2 different types of reunion. So the first reunion we get, which is with Emma, where she starts to double check whether she's actually seeing a ghost or not. It feels like it could have been a bit more emotional. With this, it's only really been a few chapters. We've got 5 episodes in from last episode. Did he die halfway through? I don't even remember. It feels like it's been about 8 episodes roughly since we last saw Norman, and Norman vanished quite mysteriously. We didn't really get to hone in on it too much, but it did feel quite emotional when he vanished. But I have obviously got tons and tons of questions, which he does kind of answer this episode. He tells us that he was shipped to a different farm and off the bat on the first little quick meeting, which isn't quite what he tells us a bit later on. It led to so many questions. I had so many questions when he was talking and he said that. I was like, well, how did you escape that farm? Why were you shipped to another farm instead of being eaten, which felt a little bit suspicious. I'm very suspicious of Norman. I don't quite know if that suspicious nature of mine is actually quite justified now. So I'll tell you guys roughly at the end of the episode how I now feel and where I stand, because a lot happens and this episode is full of a lot of information. Ray's reunion with Norman is a simple slap in the face, which is quite fun. It's quite a nice contrast. But ultimately, we do end up with them having a hug, where we do finally get to see Norman's crew who have taken off their masks. There are 4 of them roughly in this shot, but we are led to believe that there's probably more. And also, there's another hideout somewhere where the kids that Norman has actually saved are there. So there's multiple hideouts going on. But it's nice to see that the crew are taking off their masks, still in the demon town. So I guess it's okay to drop the security right now, and I guess the demons aren't going to come after you guys. But we have got 4 characters who I think we'll discuss at the end because that's the major scene. We get our big reunion with Norman and the other children, which is quite cool, where we start to get a bit of information about the backstory. What's happened with Norman? What has Norman been through? And it does seem like he's been through a lot. So he was sent to a place called Lamada, which is actually a child experiment center, which does lead me to have a few more questions. He has got a new tattoo, so his collection of tattoos is definitely growing. He says that during the experiments that the kids started to go through abnormal developments. I've got questions about this, and I do wonder if Barbara demonstrates some of those abnormal developments a bit later on in the episode. Do the demons have enough kids to keep the upper class happy? as well as sending them off to be experimented on. So I have so many questions. At the same time, I don't want to be spoiled, but then again, can I even be spoiled at this point? Because you guys don't even know what's going on. Indirectly, we do get a look at the kids and how they have been growing herbs, growing their food. Just a nice little indirect nod as we go through this quite heavy plot line. It does turn out that Norman apparently killed the demons with his new crew, destroyed the faculty, and ended up escaping to a hideout which was built by these guys called Smee, which we're not really given too much information upon. I don't know if it's inferred that Minerva is dead or Minerva is gone. Someone did point out to me that the episode with the little book that Minerva's actually said that he's going to go to the human world. That will be interesting to see if we follow it, but that doesn't seem like it's our main plot now. So we've now completely spun off onto a different path for what it seems. Smee apparently was behind Crone having the pen. They're behind this whole center, the fact that they were testing on humans. No, we don't actually know what they were testing for, though. Norman apparently has been very, very busy since we last saw him, rescuing kids, being a complete resistance, being on the side of justice, where he has actually big-brained a drug, and he's made a drug that makes the demons regress, where this now gives us some information on demons as a species, where the demons literally are what you eat. Yes, so these guys are what you eat. So if a demon is a human, they maintain a humanoid form, hence why the different demons we've seen are so varied. And this is where I also went, well, Mujika was very human. Like, she was the most human demon we've seen so far. At this point, I was big braining it. I was like, well, she's either lying, and she has definitely eaten humans, hence her form, or there's something else going on, which we'll deal with that a little bit later on, because I definitely go there a little bit later on, because the plot also takes us there. Apparently, when these guys regress, they are easier to beat because they don't have the brains that the eating humans gives them. So that's why the humans have to get smart, essentially. And they also said that they attack each other. So we haven't really seen this yet. I'm going to have to trust whatever tests Norman has been running to give him the idea that the demons would actually attack one another. So it would have been chaos before. But then that leads me to start questioning the origins, where we had apparently, when they lived together, surely the demons before even humans eating humans would have been killing each other. So I'm not sure, guys. There's a lot of information. I'm trying to make heads and tails of what I've got. He has been a very busy boy who has mass produced this drug somehow. And he also gives us more information telling us that these demons don't regain that intellect. So once they have regressed, that is it. They don't go back. They will attack each other. And thus that will enable us to disable the farm system. So up until this point, I've told you, I have absolutely no idea how the kids are actually going to escape or do anything because they seem so powerless. This episode literally is the turning of the tides. We now have an option. We have a route. We can now see where this route is going to go. But obviously this route is an extreme route. We are taking a very extreme route. And Norman recalls what Emma once told him. Let's change the world, make it a future together. Norman then proclaims that he will be wiping out all the demons, following Eren Yeager's footsteps. You know, it is now attack on demon, which is what it kind of feels like when it comes to this group. We get a roll credits moment where he says Neverland will burn. Interesting that he says it's the demons' Neverland. Up until this point, it's the Promised Neverland. The title itself makes you kind of wonder whether them being in these farms is perfect place to the kids anyway, where they're fed there with family, they have the promise of going somewhere. That feels like a bit of a Neverland, a bit of a lie. But the way that Norman says it actually turns it on its head and makes it the demons' Neverland that is going to be burning. So they're in the Neverland where they've been eating in luxury, kind of, but that also doesn't match what we've been seeing. We've been seeing that there is a hierarchy amongst the demons. So the demons at the top, sure, are living in a Neverland, but those at the bottom, where especially last week we saw the demon who has the kid who was sick, they're not living in a Neverland. And this is the bit where we start to see the conflict. Emma is going to be presenting our conflict. Emma isn't convinced. You can also see that Ray is keeping his eye on Emma and has also noticed it. Norman's plan also starts the very next day. So the plot is literally steaming ahead. It feels very breakneck. I really do feel like I'm going to have to watch this a couple of times over just to actually absorb all the information, because there is a lot of information, guys. But we have been building this very slowly for the past 5 episodes. Emma is troubled, and Emma also is the one looking at Mujika's pendant. She is conflicted, and this is the conflict that the anime has been trying to build and show us as it's been building. Ray has noticed this also conflict that she's got. Emma is very heavily against Norman's plan. We've seen her recently starting to warm up to the demons in a sense where she still thinks they're monsters. She finds them scary. We even say that. That I think is true. But it's more the fact that she's starting to learn about the other side, where she's seen them with names. They've got family. They are individuals. They're not all the same. And obviously the time with Mujika and Sonju also opened up her eyes. But that now becomes questionable with what we're about to learn a bit later on. We are introduced to the conflict. This is where we're going to have our plot essentially build up. We've got Norman's plan now, but Emma is definitely not on board. And I believe that's probably where the route this anime is now going to take. It's going to be taking Emma versus Norman, which is quite sad. Emma doesn't want to kill them, but she also admits that she doesn't know how to make things resolve without conflict. With Emma, it's always been finding a route without conflict. Where is the middle ground? Is there a way to have it so we don't have to kill people? But at the same time, she understands that running away to the human world, if they save their family, the demons would starve anyway, so they would end up regressing naturally and going into a war. So she is stuck in the middle without any real ideas. Ray doesn't really have any advice. He hasn't really got a magic solution either, because right now there really isn't a magic solution. There isn't a one solution fixes everything. Ray's advice is simply not to give up. You don't bottle things up, you just fight it. And then you might find another way. Face it with a new slate. He doesn't have an issue with the wiping out, so we do get to see how Ray feels. He says he's going to support Emma. We've seen that quite often. Ray is very supportive of Emma, where he starts to theorize that Sonju and Mujika are either lying, like I have kind of started deducing myself, or they might be an exceptional case. And if that is the sense, that if they are exceptional cases, that might be our way forward to a coexistence. So if it does turn out that the demons don't actually need to eat humans, then you've got a path forward. Then you can basically save everybody, run away to the human side, and the demons then might not die. But then he does say they're exceptional cases. So that still means that the majority of the demons who are not exceptional cases are gonna die. They're gonna end up regressing and dying. The drug may not actually work on exceptions, which then leads us to the fact that we now need to talk to Norman. So we actually need more information, and we also need to see if Norman knows about the idea of exceptions and whether his drug is going to be working on everybody. This whole conversation happens as the sun starts to rise. A sun will signify a new day, a new start, new hope. And it does feel like these two have turned a new page with one another. Ray and Emma do have a very interesting bond that's built up since Norman has vanished. So they feel stronger. Those two definitely have a stronger connection to one another. Norman, it's not really Norman's fault. He wasn't really in the plot. It is nice to see the connection between Ray and Emma building. Let's head over to Fort Norman and get our hands on our new characters. Well, some of them. We are told that Sassy is out with Norman, who was actually the one who killed the demons in the square. But we are introduced to a guy called Sislo. We have Barbara, who initially I was like, oh, look, she's eating. Maybe not so innocent. And then we have Vincent. So we have 3 different characters at Fort Norman. And all 3 of them were test subjects, so they were also being tested upon. But they're older. So I did note that every single one of these guys is older. They have clearly been experimented on for quite a long time, because obviously if they were shipped out at the correct age for under the guise of being eaten, that's around 12. These guys look a lot older than 12. So we can only really imagine what kind of horrors they have been dealing with day in and day out. We start to discuss Norman, and the 2 groups know Norman very differently. So Norman has essentially changed. It's not smiling anymore. He's been called cold and even an emperor, which is interesting. And it ends up with this reminiscence section where we have the 2 guys talking about the younger, innocent Norman who used to wet the bed, and he is now the one who is mass producing a drug to go and wipe out a species. But they do all agree that Norman is kind. So he ended up rescuing many, many children, sacrificing his own sleep, doing the one thing that the kids themselves didn't want Emma doing. They didn't want Emma sacrificing herself for them, but this time around, Norman sacrificing himself for the good cause, as he would see it, for the greater good. All 3 of these characters are all on board the Attack Demon train, where we now get introduced to quite a tense moment where Barbara ends up kind of letting out her inner emotions and how she really feels. And it turns out that she's actually eaten demon, which means you're essentially the same as them. This makes you the same. And maybe even worse, because it's out of revenge. it goes down quite a tense moment where she even goes down the whole exterminating them, wants to eat them all out of revenge. The problem is that these guys here have all lived hell. They've been through hell. These guys have been experimented on. Those experiments are made out to be very ghastly, that many kids just didn't survive those experiments. They've also been forced to go through these abnormalities as well. Barbara isn't impressed when suddenly Emma's not quite on board the attack on demon train. In her eyes, nonsense. So to somebody who has been through absolute hell, seeing Emma not be on board ends up making her even more angry, where it does actually look like if Emma was to essentially say anything right now, it would definitely be a very violent objection. But it is a very difficult situation. These guys have clearly lost family, they've clearly lost friends, they are all suffering. These guys have been through more hell than the kids have, because they've been probably day in, day out being experimented on. It must have been painful. Ray realizes that they have no right to really tell them how to feel. So the question comes down to, what about Norman? So we now know that Norman has changed, but we need to understand more. So will Norman listen? So he starts to hear about the tale of Sonju and Mujika. But bearing in mind that Sonju wants to eat humans, we cannot eradicate the fact that he said that on his own. I think these guys might be lying. I think there's a possibility that Sonju and Mujika are definitely lying. But because Sonju even said, I want to hunt them. I want to eat humans. We at least know that half of this pairing is lying. And that's clearly why Sonju has his human form. Mysteries start to twist upon twist. It turns out that Norman actually knows Mujika, and he calls her the heretical girl, and he looks absolutely terrified and angry, and it's that face knowing that Norman has definitely changed. He's not the same person anymore, but it's also a face of suffering, pain, and torment does that to you. Torment and pain and suffering will turn even the most innocent young bedwetter into a hardened resistance fighter. Back to the idea of the heretical girl very, very briefly as well. Mujika's shadow in the OP has perhaps been foreshadowing this. I have many questions about whether Mujika's also lying like Sonju, whether she really is a different case. What also did she do to Norman? So what is the story between Norman and Mujika? That is the one big thing on my brain right now. Really interested to find out what's going on there. What do I think personally about episode 6? I personally think it is a lot of information being shoved in our faces quite quickly. This probably would have flowed better if it was slowed down a little bit. I think it's fast-paced. I definitely think the pacing on this series isn't as beautiful and crisp as the first series. I love season 1. I really like the way season 1 fit together. It had a goal involved. It knew what it wanted to achieve. This season feels very up and down. It feels like the anime wanted to really get to this point as quickly as it could. It wants to set up the conflict, the Emma versus Norman in a way. It wants to set up the big overarching goal that humanity is going to be fighting back. There's a lot of questions I have. I have plenty of questions. Whether the anime is actually going to answer them sufficiently, whether I'm going to be happy with those answers, maybe. It's definitely a very interesting episode. I need to see more. I think at this point I need to see more before I make my absolute call. As an anime only, there is a lot going on and my brain is swamped right now. It's interesting to see where we're going. I don't know how interesting these videos are, especially on this one. This one feels weird. This anime has definitely gone in a different direction than I was imagining it would do. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens next week. Is Norman going to tell us why he's not so keen on Mujika? Is Mujika going to be a key player later on? She does appear with Sonju in the OP, so it made me realise that they definitely had more of a role to play. They couldn't just be a flyby character. They definitely have something more to say, but we also know that Sonju is definitely eating humans, or definitely plans to be eating humans. He might not be the guy that Emma and Ray think he is, so perhaps they were lied to, and maybe if they find out that they were lied to, they might not think quite the same. As the anime has taken quite a bit of time to show us the more humane sides, I say that with inverted comments, sides to the demons, like the fact that they're families, they've got names, we've seen the sick children as well. Maybe it does want us to consider the fact that there might be more to demons than Norman and his crew think. So I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope you guys get some kind of interest out of my video and just see how I feel and how I'm reacting to it and think. So hopefully you guys are taking care of yourselves, and I will definitely see you guys again soon. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.